Welcome to this video on planets in Cancer, or the fourth house, the heart center of the birth chart, where home, roots, and emotional foundations live. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, intuitive, and protective. The fourth house shares these themes. It governs your private life, family connections, ancestry, and the inner world you retreat to when the outside feels too loud. When a planet lands in Cancer or the fourth house, its energy turns inward. It becomes more protective, emotional, and focused on what feels safe. These placements speak to your relationship with your past, your need for belonging, and the way you create emotional security for yourself and others. In this series, we'll explore how each planet expresses itself here, from the sun's sense of identity rooted in family and tradition, to Mars' drive to protect and defend loved ones, to Neptune's dreamy ideal of home. We'll also look at what these placements mean in a psychic reading or astrology dice roll, and how they can reveal where your soul finds comfort and healing. So settle in, because Cancer and the fourth house remind us that before we go out into the world, we must know where home truly is. Today we explore a placement that shines from the heart, the sun in Cancer or in the fourth house. The sun represents your core identity, life purpose, and the energy you radiate into the world. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, intuitive, and protective. The fourth house mirrors these themes. It governs home, family, ancestry, and your private emotional life. When the sun is here, the self is deeply tied to home, roots, and emotional security. With this placement, you often find your sense of purpose in creating a safe, warm environment for yourself and those you love. Family, whether biological or chosen, plays a central role in your life path. You may be deeply connected to your heritage, drawn to caring roles, or naturally protective over those who depend on you. In career, you're motivated by emotional fulfillment as much as material success. You might thrive in work that supports others, counseling, teaching, hospitality, healing, or anything that allows you to work from home or within a close-knit team. Your personal values and work life are often intertwined. In relationships, you're deeply loyal and affectionate. You express love through care, presence, and emotional support. But you may also be sensitive to criticism or retreat into your shell when feeling unsafe. Health-wise, emotional well-being directly impacts physical health. Creating a peaceful home environment and honouring your need for rest is essential. Financially, you may prioritise security and saving for the future. Property or investments connected to the home can be significant. When the sun in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to come back to your emotional centre. Strength comes from tending your roots. And right now, home and heart may hold the answers you're seeking. So ask yourself, what truly makes me feel safe? And how can I nurture that in my life now? Because this sun placement teaches that your light shines brightest when it's grounded in love, care, and the place you call home. Today, we explore a placement where the mind speaks the language of the heart. Mercury in Cancer, or in the fourth house. Mercury rules communication, thinking, and learning. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is intuitive, emotional, and nurturing. The fourth house governs home, family, and the inner emotional world. When Mercury lands here, thoughts and words are deeply coloured by feeling, memory, and empathy. This placement often gives a reflective and sensitive mind. You may have an excellent memory, especially for personal stories or emotional details. Your thinking process is intuitive. You often just know things without needing logical proof. Communication tends to be warm and caring, but also cautious. You choose your words with the listener's feelings in mind. In relationships, you connect through sharing memories, family stories, or personal history. You may be a comforting listener, someone others turn to when they need to feel heard and understood. But you might also retreat into silence if emotions run too high, needing time to process before speaking. In career, Mercury here can thrive in counselling, writing, teaching, history, or any work that involves nurturing, protecting, or working from home. You may also have a talent for storytelling, especially about family or cultural heritage. Health-wise, emotional stress can affect digestion, or cause tension in the chest area. Gentle routines, home comforts, and expressing feelings in a safe space help keep your mind balanced. Financially, you may take a careful, protective approach, often saving for family needs or home improvements. When Mercury in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to speak from the heart. This is a time for emotionally honest conversations, family discussions, or exploring your own memories for insight. So ask yourself, am I truly expressing how I feel, or just hinting at it? What part of my inner world needs a voice right now? Because Mercury in Cancer teaches that words can be a form of care, and when you speak with empathy, you create understanding that lasts far beyond the moment. Today we explore a placement that brings love, beauty, and comfort into the heart of the home. Venus in Cancer or in the fourth house. Venus is the planet of relationships, pleasure, and what we value. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, protective, and emotionally deep. The fourth house governs home, family, and your inner emotional foundation. When Venus lands here, love becomes care, beauty feels like comfort, and relationships are rooted in emotional safety. This placement creates someone who values loyalty, tenderness, and deep connection. You may show love by cooking for someone, making their space beautiful, or offering unwavering emotional support. Home isn't just where you live, it's the emotional atmosphere you create. You're likely happiest when your living space feels harmonious, safe, and full of personal meaning. In relationships, you're affectionate and protective, often putting your loved one's needs first. You bond deeply and may become emotionally attached quickly. The challenge is learning to balance care with healthy boundaries, so your love doesn't become overprotective or dependent. In career, Venus here can shine in interior design, hospitality, family businesses, or any work that centers on comfort, beauty, and care. When Venus in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign to nurture love where it feels like home and to create beauty in the spaces, relationships, and routines that protect your heart. So ask yourself, how can I bring more warmth, harmony, and care into my closest spaces and connections? Because Venus here reminds us, love feels richest when it's safe, steady, and coming from the heart. Today we explore one of the moon's most natural and powerful placements, the moon in Cancer or in the fourth house. The moon rules Cancer and feels deeply at home in the fourth house, making this an emotionally rich and highly intuitive position. Here, your inner world, instincts, and emotional needs are deeply tied to home, family, and a sense of belonging. With this placement, feelings run deep, and your emotional sensitivity is a strength. You may be highly attuned to the moods of others, able to pick up subtle emotional cues without a word being spoken. Your memories and connections to the past are strong. Family history, childhood experiences, and ancestral roots often play a defining role in your life. Home is more than a place for you. It's an emotional sanctuary. You may have a strong need to create a nurturing, safe, and comforting environment. In relationships, you're caring, protective, and loyal, though you may retreat or close the shell when feeling hurt or unsafe. Career-wise, this moon thrives in caregiving, counselling, teaching, or any work connected to home, food, or emotional well-being. When the moon in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a call to honour your emotional needs and tend to your roots. So ask yourself, where do I truly feel at home? And am I giving myself permission to be there? Because the moon here teaches that when you nurture yourself, you create the emotional stability to nurture others too. Today we explore a soul path centered on emotional connection, belonging, and inner security, the North Node in Cancer or in the fourth house. The North Node represents the qualities and experiences your soul is here to develop, even if they feel unfamiliar at first. Cancer and the fourth house are about home, family, ancestry, and the inner emotional world. With this placement, your growth comes from nurturing, softening, and building emotional roots. This usually means your South Node lies in Capricorn, or the 10th house, a past life or early life comfort zone rooted in achievement, status, and self-reliance. You may have spent much of your life chasing external success or holding yourself to high standards, but your soul's evolution is calling you to focus less on what you achieve and more on how you feel. Your journey is about creating a safe emotional foundation, both for yourself and with others. This can mean spending more time at home, connecting to family, healing ancestral patterns, or allowing yourself to be cared for instead of always being the one in control. When the North Node in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to lean into vulnerability, connection, and care. External recognition will mean little without inner peace. So ask yourself, am I building a life that feels like home, or just one that looks successful from the outside? Because this path teaches that true fulfillment isn't found in titles or trophies, but in the heart and the place where you feel you truly belong. Today we explore the karmic comfort zone of the South Node in Cancer, or in the fourth house. The South Node represents qualities, habits, and emotional patterns your soul has already mastered in past lives or early in this one. Cancer and the fourth house are tied to home, family, ancestry, and emotional security. With this placement, you come into life deeply connected to your roots, with a strong instinct to nurture, protect, and seek safety in the familiar. This history gives you natural empathy, loyalty, and emotional depth, but it can also lead to over-attachment to the past. You may cling to old relationships, family patterns, or comfort zones, even when they keep you from growing. Change can feel threatening, and you may prefer the safety of the known over the risk of the unknown. Your North Node in Capricorn, or the 10th house, calls you toward building independence, taking on greater responsibility, and developing your public or professional life. The soul's growth here is about stepping into leadership and structure without losing the warmth and compassion you already carry. When the South Node in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign to look at where nostalgia, fear of change, or emotional dependency might be holding you back. So ask yourself, am I hiding in the past because it feels safe? And what could I create if I stepped fully into the world? Because this placement teaches that while home is a beautiful anchor, your soul's evolution comes from learning to stand strong beyond its walls. Today we explore a placement where action is driven by emotion and the desire to protect. Mars in Cancer, or in the fourth house. Mars is the planet of drive, willpower, and how we pursue our goals. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, sensitive, and protective. The fourth house governs home, family, and your inner emotional foundations. When Mars lands here, your motivation is deeply tied to emotional security and protecting what feels like home. This placement often creates a protector energy. You're quick to act when loved ones are threatened or when your safe space is disturbed. Your drive may be less about personal ambition and more about creating stability for yourself and those you care for. At your best, you're fiercely loyal and committed. At your most reactive, you can be defensive, moody, or indirect in expressing anger. In relationships, you're drawn to partners who make you feel safe, but you also want to provide that safety in return. You may be slow to open up, but once you do, your dedication runs deep. In career, Mars here can thrive in family businesses, real estate, cooking, caregiving, or any work connected to the home. When Mars in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a call to channel your emotional energy into constructive action, to protect without controlling, and to act from love rather than fear. So ask yourself, am I fighting for my comfort zone or building a stronger one? Because this placement teaches that true strength comes not just from defending the home, but from creating one worth defending. Today, we explore a placement that blends emotional warmth with growth and abundance. Jupiter in Cancer, or in the fourth house. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, wisdom, and opportunity. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, protective, and deeply connected to family and home. The fourth house mirrors these themes, representing your roots, emotional foundations, and private life. When Jupiter lands here, your luck and growth often come from emotional connection, family bonds, and creating a safe, nourishing home. This placement can bring blessings through property, family support, or a strong sense of belonging. You may attract opportunities by being generous, caring, and protective of those around you. Your intuition is a powerful guide, and trusting your gut often leads to fortunate outcomes. You may feel happiest in a home that is warm, welcoming, and possibly larger or more comfortable than average. Travel or education could be linked to family or heritage, and you may have a deep interest in cultural traditions. In relationships, you're generous with affection, loyalty, and care. You tend to create a safe haven for loved ones, and others often see you as someone they can rely on. When Jupiter in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign that abundance is linked to your emotional life. Growth comes when you nurture your roots, trust your instincts, and allow yourself to receive as well as give. So ask yourself, how can I create more space, physically and emotionally, for joy, love, and connection in my life? Because this placement reminds us that true wealth isn't just in the bank, it's in the feeling of being at home in yourself. Today we explore a placement that blends emotional sensitivity with lessons in stability. Saturn in Cancer or in the fourth house. Saturn is the planet of discipline, responsibility, and long-term growth. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, protective, and deeply tied to family and home. The fourth house reflects these themes, governing your roots, private life, and emotional foundations. When Saturn lands here, the soul is tasked with building emotional security from the ground up. This placement can indicate early life experiences where emotional support or home stability was limited, delayed, or came with responsibility attached. You may have learned to be self-reliant from a young age, carrying a strong sense of duty toward family. Over time, this can create deep resilience, but it can also lead to emotional walls that take effort to soften. Saturn here teaches that true safety comes from within. You're meant to create a home and inner life that is both stable and nourishing, not just for others, but for yourself. In relationships, you may take commitment seriously and prefer long-term bonds. Trust is built slowly, but once earned, your loyalty is unshakable. In career, this placement can succeed in real estate, architecture, caregiving, history, or any work tied to building, protection, or tradition. When Saturn in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a call to strengthen your emotional foundations. This may be a time to repair old family patterns, create a more secure home life, or set boundaries that protect your peace. So ask yourself, am I building a home and inner world out of fear or out of love? Because Saturn here teaches that when your emotional foundations are solid, you can weather any storm life sends your way. Today we explore a placement that brings change, originality, and sometimes disruption to the heart of your private world. Uranus in Cancer or in the fourth house. Uranus is the planet of innovation, freedom, and sudden shifts. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, protective, and tied to tradition. The fourth house governs home, family, roots, and emotional security. When Uranus lands here, the familiar themes of home and heritage are shaken up so you can create security on your own terms. This placement can bring an unconventional upbringing, perhaps marked by frequent moves, unusual family structures, or moments of sudden change in your home life. These experiences often teach you early that home is not always a fixed place, but something you carry inside yourself. You may have an urge to create a living space that's different from the norm, modern, communal, off-grid, or in a constantly changing location. Freedom in your private life is essential, and you're unlikely to follow rigid traditions just because they're expected. In relationships, you value emotional closeness, but you also need breathing room. Your ideal home life is one where everyone has space to be themselves. In career, this placement can excel in real estate innovation, home design, technology for living spaces, or work that allows you to be based from home with flexibility. When Uranus in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign that change in your home or family dynamics is either happening now or is on the horizon. This may feel unsettling at first, but it's ultimately clearing space for a freer, more authentic emotional foundation. So ask yourself, am I holding on to a definition of home that no longer fits me? What would it look like to create a private world that reflects who I am now? Because Uranus here reminds us, home doesn't have to look normal to feel like yours. Today we explore a placement that blends emotional sensitivity with imagination and spiritual depth. Neptune in Cancer or in the fourth house. Neptune is the planet of dreams, compassion, intuition, and illusion. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is nurturing, protective, and deeply tied to family. The fourth house governs home, roots, and your inner emotional world. When Neptune lands here, the idea of home becomes deeply idealized, sometimes a source of comfort and magic, other times a place of confusion or longing. This placement can give you a strong desire for a perfect home or family life, often inspired by a deep emotional vision. You may be highly intuitive about family matters, sensing the undercurrents in your household or ancestry. Your private world may feel sacred, a place where you retreat to dream, create, and connect with your spiritual side. However, Neptune here can also blur boundaries in family relationships. You might experience misunderstandings, unclear roles, or unrealistic expectations about what home should be. Sometimes this placement points to secrecy or mystery in family history that influences your emotional patterns. In relationships, you tend to give deeply and may put loved ones on a pedestal. You can be the emotional anchor for others, but you must remember to anchor yourself too. In career, this placement can thrive in creative home-based work, healing practices, spiritual guidance, or anything that blends compassion with care for people's comfort and emotional needs. When Neptune in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to clarify what home means to you. Are you chasing an idealized image or building something real? It's also a nudge to trust your intuition in family matters while staying grounded in facts. So ask yourself, am I seeing my home life clearly or through rose-colored glasses? And what would it take to make my emotional sanctuary truly supportive? Because Neptune here teaches that the most beautiful home isn't just a place, it's a feeling you consciously choose to create. Today we explore a placement that brings intensity, transformation, and deep emotional power to the most private areas of life. Pluto in Cancer, or in the fourth house. Pluto is the planet of transformation, power, and rebirth. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is protective, emotional, and tied to family and ancestry. The fourth house governs home, roots, and your inner emotional foundation. When Pluto lands here, your soul's evolution is closely linked to healing and transforming your sense of home and belonging. This placement often points to powerful and sometimes challenging family dynamics. You may have grown up with strong emotional undercurrents, themes of control, secrecy, loyalty, or deep attachment. These early experiences can profoundly shape your sense of safety, self-worth, and the way you handle intimacy. You may go through cycles of rebuilding your emotional foundations, moving house, restructuring family relationships, or completely redefining what home means to you. At times, you might feel a deep pull to protect your private world fiercely, while also needing to confront fears or attachments that keep you from evolving. In relationships, your loyalty is intense, but you may need to work through patterns of control or emotional dependency. Healthy bonds come when you channel this intensity into trust and mutual empowerment. In career, this placement can excel in psychology, genealogy, real estate, healing work, or anything that helps others transform their own sense of security. When Pluto in Cancer or the fourth house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign that deep emotional transformation is happening or needs to happen within your home life or private self. Old patterns, fears, or attachments may need to be released so you can rebuild on stronger, healthier foundations. So ask yourself, what part of my inner world needs a complete rebirth? And am I willing to face the shadows of my past to create a stronger future? Because Pluto here teaches that true security doesn't come from holding on tightly. It comes from having the courage to transform what no longer serves your soul.